But last night, I don't know if it was a shocker, but the way it played out in Columbia with Alabama losing as underdogs, but losing at that rate, 110.
That's a lot of points to give up. John Sundvold saw every one of them on the SEC Network last night. He is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Welcome in, John. Hope you're doing well today.
I'm doing great. Good morning. It's cold as hell in Columbia, Missouri.
It is in Birmingham, too.
Hell.
Cold in Birmingham, too.
We've already seen snow this morning, John.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did. Now it's zero. It's zero here. -5 when you drive by a bank, but cold. Man, cold.
Yeah.
I'll use the terrible announcer transition. The shooting wasn't cold last night for Missouri last night, John.
Was it not unbelievable for a collegiate game? Honestly, the atmosphere was fabulous. Missouri's got a great team that a lot of people don't realize. Mizzou people know. And then there's a couple things. For Missouri to play as well as they did, but Alabama never left, right? They never left. That first half, there were either 4 or 5 possessions, shot clock winding down, that Alabama made a shot at the buzzer of the shot clock. That if you don't make those 4 or 5, the thing's at 25 points. But it never got away from Alabama. And that's what I marveled at. As well as Missouri played, Alabama's still there, and they got within 6. And then Missouri, there's a timeout. Mark Sears is going crazy. Alabama bench is going crazy right across from us. You can see the emotion. And then they come out of a timeout, and boom, boom, boom. Missouri's got 7 straight points, and you're back to 13. So it was a great night. I had a great seat to watch it. That's for sure.
John, obviously Alabama's a really good team, but the obvious question coming out of this game now with 5 losses, in those 5 losses, they're giving up an average of 89.6 points per game. Obviously, the 110 last night. Is this defense good enough to win a championship?
Well, when you say it like that, you'd say no. But championships are won by the opponents you play on that road to that championship game. Does that make sense? It's if you're matched up with teams that can't score, like Missouri or Kentucky or Auburn. Now you're thinking, well, you're going to get someone like that. Not necessarily. Maybe you find defensive teams like A&M or Houston or the likes that don't score the ball at a high rate. So I don't think it's automatic that they can't win it. The challenge I saw, and I said it maybe at the start, I probably said it 2 or 3 games, the physicality of the guards that I think Auburn has and that Missouri has. Their guards are stronger and more physical. I think that takes its toll on a team like Alabama. That I love Mark Sears, but he's 6'1", and I think that's stretching it. Aiden Holloway's a $175 maybe. So I thought Auburn's guard pushed them around, and I think Missouri's guards pushed them around. And I think there's a challenge right there when you rarely think of a backcourt being physical or not as physical. But I think that's a challenge, what I saw last night for Alabama. They've got to shore that up. I don't know how you do that this time of year, but again, who you play when you get to the tournament and how they play, Alabama's still fine. They're a great team, but matchups could happen.
Listen, I know the ceiling is the ceiling, but for this Missouri team today, everyone's going to be talking about what they could do in March. What could this team do? Do they have the DNA, the makeup to make that kind of run to the Final Four?
I do think they're a Final Four type team. Could they win it all? Yeah, it's their progression this year. So let me go back. Their first game, okay, you lose every conference game a year ago, right? And so there's no way you're going to be picked to be a good team. That's just the way it is. You add a 2-year starter at Duke. Anybody that starts 2 years at Duke is pretty damn good. That's Mark Mitchell. They changed his game a bit different than he was playing at Duke, much more aggressive. You got a kid like Caleb Grill, who's now 24 years old. He played 4 years of college basketball before he transferred last year to Missouri. He only played 9 games last year. That was his grad year. So now he's 24, so he's back. That's new. You get a point guard like the Perkins kid from Iowa, who was all Big Ten point guard, now his grad year. You add all these pieces, and you start thinking about, okay, their first game of the year against Memphis, and Memphis is really, really good. Missouri's up 14. Second half, 10 to go, and they get beat by 13. Like they just got ambushed. They turned it over. It was ugly. But I was watching the game thinking, damn, Missouri's pretty good. Like they've got a lot of pieces. And what the progression has been, and what I've seen, is not only the game they played at Auburn was the first game of the SEC. They weren't that good. Auburn just smacked them. But from that point on, what they've done, Missouri's done defensively, they're good. They've got bigs. They're deep. They'll go 9, 10 deep. They've got enough scores that can get 25 on any given night. There's 4 or 5 guys that have scored over 25 points. Now the progression is they went on the road and absolutely handled Florida, which I think Florida is one of the best teams in the country. I mean, they ended up winning by 1, but they were up 18 at Florida. And so, yeah, they've got all the goods to make any kind of run. What teams give them problems? A Texas A&M. That Texas A&M gives everybody problems. They hold you, grab you, tackle you, and they beat Missouri at a buzzer shot. So I think maybe last night, and those who finally got to see Missouri play would say, "Hey, this is another one of the teams." I look at the SEC and say, "Okay, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Missouri are the 4 best that can make the deepest run."
John Sundvold with us, SEC Network. He was the analyst on the game last night. You know, Alabama has struggled with turnovers, and they haven't really fixed that. They've struggled with defense at times. As you said, you are what you are kind of this time of year, but they've struggled recently at finishing at the rim. Why does that? Is that something that just kind of crops up in a season like that?
I think what teams are doing with Alabama is making them finish.
Yeah.
And what I say, a lot of times Alabama is a team that likes to go in, get to the paint, and what their terminology is, they like to spray it out, kick it out. So let's say you have smaller guards. And though he was brilliant last night, and he's been brilliant most of his career, Mark Sears, if I'm a defensive coach, if I'm an opponent's coach, I want Sears to finish at the rim with the long hand coming at him. I want any of their bigs to finish. What they love to do is let your defense sag, help from the weak side or whatever you want to call it, and then they kick it out and shoot open threes. I think what teams are doing now is like saying, hey, if they drive it, we're going to challenge them with 1 or 2 guys, but we're not sagging from all kinds of angles. Stay on shooters outside. Make Mark Sears make tough twos, bang him a little bit, wear him down, and make any of the bigs like Nelson, make them finish with defense in your face instead of letting them kick out and get open threes and having your defense chase them around. I saw that with Auburn. I thought I saw that with Missouri last night, is saying, okay, they're going to drive it, and we're just going to play them. And if they make great shots around the rim, but challenge them. And I think those shots are a lot more difficult.
You've played a lot of basketball. You've watched a lot of basketball. When Dennis Gates comes over, calls a timeout, a second half, please don't rush the court. Have you ever seen anything like that?
You know, I've not. I don't know for exactly if the students were coming down or not. I don't know if it was pre-planned. Have no idea. Good move in the fact that we've had enough court storming things. I'm not against them if they get teams off the floor and then let students have fun on the court. I'm not against it. I know there's big fines and big charges by the SEC, but I've not seen it. As I was sitting watching, I didn't know what he's doing. He kept telling the ref, I want to call timeout with 1 second left. And then he did it. The students booed. Again, I don't know if they were coming or not. I didn't anticipate they were going to rush the floor, but a good call by him. Then it allows Alabama players to get off the floor, shake hands, do your thing, and move on. So not a bad idea.
And you don't cut a $250,000 check on top of all of that.
To Alabama's NIL.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, he is John Sundvold. You can follow him on social media at John Sundvold and see him throughout the season on the SEC Network, as you did last night with Bama and Missouri. John, thank you very much for the time. We greatly appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a great day.
All right,
Appreciate it.
you too. Good talking with you. John with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.